Test, test, we're live. Hey folks, it's Friday. Hope you've all had a good week so far. We're doing some game dev today, as we do on Fridays now. Just gonna get some music on the go, because I realise doing something that doesn't natively have music gets very quiet. And unfortunately, these Wi-Fi headphones do turn themselves off if I'm not listening to anything. So I can't hear alerts and all that. So that's not very good. So bear with, let's get some music. But I hope you've all had a good week. I hope you've enjoyed your Friday. I certainly have. I've had a reasonable week. I can't complain. Nothing gone wrong. Well, nothing major. Car issues maybe. Car issues. But I still have a car. Just can't drive it very well at the moment. So that's not good. It's going to cost a bit of money. But unfortunately that's what cars are, I suppose. But apart from the car, putting the car aside and on the drive, it's all good. Can't complain at all. Let's find, what should we go for? Let's go for an old DJ set from... Let's go January 21. Let's have a listen to what this one's like. Let's wait for this music to load up. I'm going to unmute the desktop audio. You guys can hear that as well now. Let's turn that up a little bit so it's coming through. Don't be too loud, but just something in the background. Lyrics are a little bit R-rated, but we'll forgive it for that. Minimize VLC. It's funky. The tune's funky, even though it is there's a little bit sexual themed in there. But a lot of music is sexual when you come down to it. It's all about the rhythm and the movement. There's some music that's a little bit more direct about it. Let's connect my tablet. You like I like Porn Grind, yeah. Not quite as bad as Porn Grind. Oh yeah, Porn Grind is kind of your extreme level. That's kind of in your face, sexualized kind of music. And then you got the other end, which is kind of pop music, where they subtly talk about doing things by using slang and alternative lyrics and stuff. How's it going, Jeffrey? It's good to see you, dude. Hope you've enjoyed your week. Sex sells, it does. You can't get away from it. You might feel it's morally wrong. You might feel it's inappropriate. It shouldn't be a thing, but unfortunately, it is one of the driving forces of humanity. Good. Yes, got the key for new house today. Ooh, that's exciting. So even if you can't get in, or aren't able to get into the house right now, being in possession, figuratively or literally, of a key to a new house has got to be good. I can't wait to hold my first key to my house. This will be an exciting day. I'm able to get in if I want. Nice. That's got to be a good feeling though. It's that first step. You go, right, I am in possession of this house now. There's nothing there yet, of course, yeah. Now, I've decided already, and I've discussed this with Nix, that when we get the keys to our house, we're going to kind of fully sort it out before we move into it, if we can. Like, not move in and then start sorting things, because that just feels a little bit awkward. Obviously, we only don't want to be taking more than a month to move in because that's costs and everything. So from tomorrow till somewhere April, we'll be rebuilding and decorating. Nice. Yeah, we'll probably be intensively decorating when Nick and I get a house. But if we're not moving stuff in, decorating is going to be far easier when there's nothing in the house. Because you don't want to move in and then decorate unless you can't afford. If you haven't got the money to decorate, kind of move in, live with what you have, build some money. It's like my friend Ollie, who you met when we came over. He's only just replaced the carpet in his living room. So the carpet that he had until this week was the carpet he had when he moved into the house, and it was horrible. But it was a carpet. It did its job. He just didn't like it. Rather than spending more money on something he didn't, replacing something he didn't like, but could use, he just left it until now to go, right, okay, we're doing it now. Buy the carpet, move everything out of the room, fit it, and it looks so much nicer now. But sometimes you can't afford to do everything in the house before you move in. Sometimes you need to build that money up. But I'm hoping we can do some basic stuff. Personally, for me, it will be running networking cables around all the rooms and making sure every room you can plug your computer or games console in to the internet rather than using Wi-Fi. You can still use Wi-Fi, still have Wi-Fi, but I like plugging things in because you don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi going down or interference or something upsetting it. If it's plugged in, it's plugged in. It works. And you get top speeds as well. Wi-Fi is getting better, like Wi-Fi N or MIMO technology and N-range Wi-Fi. Super fast, but you will never be as fast as a wire connecting stuff. Yeah, cables for me, of course, yeah. You can't get away from a decent connection of a cable. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do when we first get in there. Figure out, because we don't have to know where we need to plug in. As long as there's a socket in the room, we can plug a cable into that socket and run it around to where it needs to be. But as long as each room has at least one socket, you're not having to run it under doors or through walls or doing all that kind of stuff. You just plug it in probably near a power socket, because if there's a power socket there, you're likely to have a TV or a computer or a desk next to the power. So we'll probably work with that. I'll run cables to where the power sockets are, at least to one power socket in each room, and then we'll take it from there. But I definitely want to do that, and Nick's agrees I can do it. That's the only thing. I don't care about the rest of the house, as long as the kitchen's good, so I can cook, and I have Ethernet cables running to each room for internet. I don't care if the house is bright, sort of fluorescent colours, or anything else. Doesn't matter to me. That's the only two things I need. Good, usable kitchen and internet. And I'm a happy man. Keep things simple. I am live. Yes, I am live. One thing I do need in this room right now is a Wi-Fi extender. So I'm trying to use a tablet to check on Twitch. And Wi-Fi ends... Where's my camera? Wi-Fi ends about here. Where my hand is where the Wi-Fi ends, and it goes that way. Or more accurately, it comes this way and stops here. Which is why all this in front of me is wired in. stream manager. Cool, awesome. I can see followers and chat. So if I want to reference anything, I can look at that screen now. But I can see people talking on these screens. It's just not all the things come over to the bots and stuff. So I want to keep that on there. And it saves memory on my computer by not having Twitch open. So, without further ado, we've wasted about 10 minutes of yattering. Yackering? Chatting, yakking, nattering. Something along those. Switch us over to the main screen and we'll play with this game. Okay, so as I said on Wednesday, I had a eureka moment when I went offline last Friday on how to track the hits across the building. So I'll go over that in a sec. Been playing the new Final Fantasy. Oh yes, I saw it. I've seen people posting pictures online with their copies in their hands. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Is it good? Is it just as good as the first installment? Love it. Awesome. What I'm hoping for is that they will release both halves in like a combined collection at some point, and I'll probably buy it then. And I'll experience it as a collection. Hopefully at a discounted price. But for now, I have plenty of things to play. Hate to burst your bubble, oh dear. It ain't two halves, is it? Is it like a series? Is there a few of them? How many sections? How many parts is it? Of this one is about a quarter of the total story. Oh wow. Okay, one of three. I know the original. Yes, I had the original OG PS1 version. I know the OG PS1 version wasn't the whole story. I did see that they had to cut a lot of stuff for the OG version, which is why there's so many plot holes and gaps in the story. And this is, I know the re-release is supposed to have the whole story, plus maybe a bit more. So I understand it's going to be a bigger game. Didn't realise it's quite that much bigger. But it's cool though. It's cool that actually Final Fantasy fans are getting the whole intended story now. First remake, and this one we are about at the end of the first disc. Oh wow. That's crazy. I thought it was only like a two-parter. Didn't realise they break it down into like that many sections. But it's cool though. It's just having to each part like the price of a full game now. That's the only problem I can see. So probably a 4 or 6 parter. Ooh. Well, it means they can put a lot into each part, and they don't have to worry about cutting back. But it's just the cost. If it's costing the price of a full game for each part, that's quite an investment. So you think, if you want to finish the story, you're going to have to get all 6 parts if it's a 6-parter. Yeah, I liked it so much I have only played this today, not even the critically acclaimed MMO RPG Final Fantasy XIV with extended free trial, which you can play through the entirety of Realm Reborn, and the award-winning Heaven's Sword expansion up to level 70 for free with no no restrictions on playtime. Nearly had it there. You have to make that a bot command, aren't they? Every time Final Fantasy XIV gets mentioned, it'll come out with that. Should. Yeah, just type in like, the command could be something like FF14 or something. And it just comes out with that. Or you could just have it every time Final Fantasy XIV. But you have to be reliant on people spelling it exactly like that. Or you do multiple commands with different versions. Like one with Final Fantasy XIV, FF14, Final Fantasy 14. That's a lot of work. I should make it every time someone uses the letter E or something to response, but yeah. So hey, look. We're really pushing this game hard. Can I have some money, please? Yeah, if only it worked that way. Chat would leave. Yeah, this should make it like a bits reward, or chat, like chat rewards. Redeem reward for you to read out the entire spiel. Depends if anyone wants to spend their points on it. Yeah. I'm just vibing to this music at the moment. Okay, so what I did offline last week, as I worked with this little rectangle here. You can just about see the rectangle. It's a bit faint, but it's here. This covers the section here. And this rectangle is inside here. So what I have done, I put this building, that wall, this rectangle, and this square all inside of a empty game object and called it castle holder. So if I move castle holder, this whole thing moves. So it just keeps it all together, keeps it all nice and neat. So this rectangle is called the hit grid. Inside the hit grid is the hit view, which is kind of it's a developer thing for me to see where it is. The player will never see it. But inside the hit view, well, the grid view, sorry, I've got a square. So hit grid square. So that is an example hit grid square. So I don't actually need that in there anymore. So I can delete that. Because if I play this game now, so yeah, I've made it opaque so you can kind of see it. But naturally you wouldn't see this. So this doesn't exist. What you're seeing here is like this pane of glass. Doesn't exist until the game starts running. And then when the game runs, it generates all these squares on the side here. And all these squares are what the player needs to hit. So if we fire the ball, you'll hit a square. In theory, it should have changed the square red, but in this case it hasn't. You need to work that out. Fire out another square. Oops, reset. There we go. So all the squares should go red when I hit them like that. For some reason, some don't. So I don't know. Don't know why that is, but we'll find out today. So we'll move over. There might be overlapping. So because it doesn't quite hit one square because it's another square, but that doesn't change. I don't know. Something's happening. But the idea being, the player won't see the red squares, they won't even see these glass looking squares. What they will see is like a crack. Rather than a red square, they'll see like a cracked cracked effect. And once everything's got a crack effect on it, then the building could crumble, or then level's complete. So yeah, idea being the player effectively wants to turn all these squares red, but of course, whoops, the player won't never see the colour of the squares, nor they'll see the squares at all. They just have to kind of work with seeing the visuals. Now hopefully that works. If it doesn't work, we'll find out another way of representing the progression. Just working out why it doesn't register. It's recognising it's hitting the castle, because we see the little stone fall down. Needs to be a bit higher. There we go. See, that definitely hit in the centre there, but why it didn't... Oh, there we go. Didn't change anything. Ball just didn't register on the squares. Well, I'd say it's more the squares didn't register the ball. Maybe it's hitting a square that's already red. There we go. There's a little bit of a knack to it, but we'll work that into the game mechanic. See, didn't change anything, but it hit the second time there. So it's definitely a bug. But I suppose that's the way the physics goes. It kind of does a calculation. Calculation could change somehow. Let's bring that up a bit. Okay, so we know it's mostly working there. The other thing I need to work out is that technically in this shape we don't have to make the player hit this empty space on the upper left here because there's no building there. So I'm going to have to identify which squares don't need to be hit. Which means tracking the squares, which it comes to like I need to know how many squares exist, how many of those squares have been turned red, how many squares by that example how many squares then have not been hit, and possibly even display a number on the screen so the player can go, well, I have 50 squares I need to hit, I've hit 39, I need to hit the other squares. Just to give an idea of how many more hits that building needs. But we'll stop the game there. I'll show you the code. So this is the code for generating the squares. So it pulls in the hit square, so we provide it with the square object, the hit square object, which is just effectively a plane of glass, just a square piece of glass as far as we're concerned. So we tell the game code what that looks like by doing that, and then we also record the width and the height of the entire grid. So that could be passed in, but what we do down here is I look at I look at how big the grid is. So because this code is running on the grid, so like the entire grid, it'll go, well, find the game object, which is the grid, and look at the scale of X and look at the scale of Y. So how many units wide, how many units high, and then each square is 1 unit high by 1 unit wide. To my knowledge, I might have not worked this out properly, which is why maybe there's some overlap. But I think each square is 1 unit high, 1 unit wide. Yo, hey Lisa, how's it going? Hope you've had a good Friday, enjoyed your week so far. Sorry I'm late, did workout. That's okay. Workouts are more important. I was thinking about workout today. I should have gone for a workout today. I did not go for a workout today. Trying to catch my breath now and then Aussie food time. Ooh. Well, I hope you enjoyed your workout. Doing good, how are you? I am pretty good. It's been a pretty good week for the most part. My car's been playing up. So I'm going to have a £600-700 repair on that. Fortunately, I can borrow my mother's car, but I'm not looking forward to paying that. But apart from the car, it's been a good week. Should try home workout videos for when you don't feel like going to the gym. I should do, Lisa. You are very right. I did do some press-ups and some squats while I was cooking earlier. So I thought, okay, while I'm waiting for things to cook, I'll just work out in the kitchen a little bit. Oh, that's quite expensive, yeah. So my my clutch plate is gone, I think. So, as you know, in the car, when you change gear, you got the clutch plate moves when you push the clutch pedal, and then comes back together again when you release the clutch pedal. But I think mine's worn, so even though the clutch plate's touching, it keeps sliding. So it's not very good for trying to accelerate the car, because the engine will be turning but the wheels won't be, and then sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. That's something. Small workouts also work out. Yeah, could have worked out a bit more, but I thought, well, I might as well work out a little bit in the kitchen while waiting for the food. It's not a full workout. Normally I work out for like 30-40 minutes. But I thought, well, I need to do something. And it's better to do something than nothing, I suppose. As you say, doing a home workout is better than nothing if I can't get to the gym. But I need to do that a bit more. Oh, I was confused there. Looking at my follow list, and it's back to front, so the latest person to follow me is at the bottom of the list, not the top. So that was confusing. But yeah, small workouts are still workouts. And I wasn't too tired afterwards because I thought, well, I need to sit down and eat. But I want to do something. But hopefully it's not going to cost too much to repair my car. But the problem is with the clutch plates is because they're buried right underneath the engine. The whole engine needs to be taken out of the car to get to the plate, replace the plate, and put all the engine back together again. So you can imagine that's quite a bit of work for one piece to be changed. And all it is like two, they're quite fancy, but all they are is just two discs that when they touch they kind of spin together. But once they're worn they just don't spin together. So say I'm not looking forward to paying that, but I got paid on yesterday. Yeah, I got paid yesterday. So yesterday, Wednesday. I got paid on Wednesday. I have money on Wednesday. So I have money to buy. I have money to spend on the car. I just rather not spend it on the car and spend it on other things that I need. But you can't help these things sometimes. And I do drive my car a lot. So it was going to happen. Anyway, less about cars, more about mathematics. Mathematics don't usually cost you anything. You normally need mathematics when you cost things, but... so yeah, this little bit of code here, get dimensions. It's run at the start, so when the game starts up, it runs start, runs get dimensions, then generate hit squares. Gotta give Aussie food now, okie dokie. Problem with your car is the steering wheel is on the wrong side. I would like to try driving a car with the steering wheel on the right side. Or more likely the left side. Because my steering wheel is on the right side. I feel weird because I'm used to changing gears with my left hand and just holding the steering wheel with my right hand. So to do that the other way would be a little bit weird. It's like trying to write with your other hand. But yeah, we've got two functions here we're running. Get dimensions and generate hit squares. So get dimensions is finding out how wide the grid is, how high the grid is. And the weird thing I find with C# coding is if you want to take a number and round it. So if it's like 2.5, if you want to round it down, that'll make it 2. You want to round it up, it will make it 3. But the code doesn't know what you mean by round up or round down. What it has is ceiling and floor. So if you want to round a number down from 2.5 to 2, you have to work out what the floor of 2.5 is. If you want to round the number up, you have to find the ceiling of 2.5 to make it 3. So that's what I've done here. I've gone, well, okay, what is the ceiling of the x and what is the ceiling of the y? And that basically means, okay, how many squares do I need to cover the grid? So the grid might be 10.5 wide, so I need 11 squares to fill that grid. So that's basically what I'm doing here. Finding how many squares wide, how many squares high the grid is. Then the next function down here is generating those squares to fill the grid. So it's going, okay, making a loop, so this code will run around in a circle. It will take the x value and make it 0, and then keep adding 1 to that as long as the x does not go higher than the maximum width for the grid. So effectively it's going, okay, square 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going all the way across until it's filled one line. And the same with the height. So the y value starts at 0 and keeps adding 1 until it reaches the height. So it's basically going, okay, 1 1, 1 2, 1 3, 1 4, 1 5, 2 1, 2 3, no 2 2, 2 3, 2 4, 2 5, 3 1, 3 2, 3 3, 3 4, 3 5, and so on. If you think of like a spreadsheet, rather than A, B, C, D across the top, it's 1 2 3 and then 1 2 3 down the side. So that's effectively what this is doing. It's making a grid of squares. So this is calculating, well, creating a reference of okay, where do we want to put the square? We want to put it x, but offset it by 6.83 and put it in y. And then for how wide? What's the thing going on here? A y is y. Oh, okay, yeah, and z's given. So we want the z to be consistent because the z is how close to the camera it is in this case. So it's always going to be 9.689004 away from the camera. Y will change, but X needs to be offset based on where it considers 0 to be. So 0 is actually at 6.83, so we always have to minus 6.83 from it. It's a little bit of mathematical complication there. And then it just says this instantate, can't say that. So that basically means make an instance of the hit square at that location. Now, does this return anything? I'd like it to return. So transform parent. Clones the object original and returns the clone. Okay. So what are the overloads for this? So it doesn't actually show on OBS, but good thing with Visual Studio for coding is that it will give you like tips, like a little tool tip will pop up, which doesn't unfortunately show on the OBS. But it's telling me what this does. So I could just give it an object and it will just clone it exactly where it is. So basically literally cloning it, taking thing and making another one exactly where it sits, which is not what we want. Or you can give it a parent, so clones the object original and returns the clone. Transform parent. I don't quite understand what the parents object original parents, worldview, coordination. Yeah, not fairly understanding what's going on with this. We'll leave it as it is, but I do need to change it. Be right back, tea for a shoki dokie. So I do want it, ideally I want it to return so I can grab that. Unless can I give it a... I suppose if I give the original prefab a tag, I could probably cycle all objects with that tag and work it out that way. I'm just going to mute myself while I have a drink. I'll bring myself back here. So I suppose rather than holding on to the information within this code, if all the squares have a tag, I can then cycle all objects with that tag. Problem being, I would have to do it in the code here. I don't know if I could do it retroactively. I need to be able to turn off or ignore squares that don't overlap with a building. So maybe I need to have a because I want to try and make this as dynamic as possible, meaning that I don't want to have to write new code for every level. So the idea being, no matter how I design the level of the building to hit, this code will just work it out for me. It will just go, well, here we go. This is what needs to happen. So I just create the object in the 3D world and the code will just run with it. That is what I would like to do. Because otherwise you're having to do calculations and changing things, and every time you make a level you have to calculate stuff. So I've got to decide how I want to do this. So somewhere there needs to determine the shape of the building. And I don't want to particularly have to type in anything too complicated to tell it to manually turn off squares. I don't want to have to type in turn off square 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 42. Because that means me looking at the things and working out numbers, and that just adds to the complications of being able to create another level. I'd like to just be able to make a level and the code will just carry on. So I could do it manually, and there's nothing stopping me from doing manually, but it's a lot cleaner and far more professional in my mind if I can make this code work for me. Obviously I have to put the work into the code and the code will return the work, but if this code is going to do my job for me later down the line, I think that is a success. Because most successful coding projects is that you build the blocks you need to help you build the greater thing later on. So you think of like a Lego set. If you have to design every single brick individually, you're wasting your time. But if you say, well, here's a standard brick, here's another standard brick, here's another standard brick, and now I have these standard bricks, I can then make a house. And I don't have to redesign the bricks each time, they just exist and they work. So that's effectively what I'm doing here. I'm designing bricks that when I use them will just work like you expect a brick to work. So how do I have an easy way to say this space is to be hit, this space is to be ignored? Now I'm thinking potentially I have another object, like another area that overlaps, that says ignore everything that matches up with this area. But then we would have to guarantee each building only has one area you can't hit. So if it's like an upside down T, like a long bit at the bottom and a tower, that effectively makes two areas either side that doesn't need to be hit. But then do I just make it so you can have multiple non-hit areas and it has to run through each one? Is that going to make it more complicated? Because effectively I'm making zones then. I'm making a zone, a hit zone and a non-hit zone. So what I've done so far is effectively made a hit zone. So I've made a rectangular hit zone, but what I need to be able to do is to tell it that not the whole of that rectangle is a hit zone. And of course Unity by itself only works in rectangles and circles. not any other types of shape. And even if it did have another type of shape, calculations would be far more complicated. So let's think about this then. Let's get up the visual. Let's bring this down here. So I know what the code's doing. The code is simple. Code does what code does. How do I translate what I'm looking at here? How do I make a tool that says this upper left area does not count towards the player scoring? Now, what I could do is the opposite way around and create two hit zones, so one covering this building bit here and one that covers that wall. But I'll have to make sure the two hit zones don't overlap. I could do it that way, because I can make the hit grid, so the hit grid object here, this rectangle, I can make that a prefab. And that code, this code here, this code is already inside that hit grid. So this will create a set of squares for that. So I could make it a prefab and just make two rectangles and it will generate the squares on both rectangles. That could work. I could do that. Okay, let's make... So I'm going to have to reduce that down to a 1x1. So that hit grid is going to be a 1x1. Move back. Welcome back, Lisa. So let's make this a prefab. Let's move this hit grid down here. What you do now, is it close to your day job? Or what you do now is close to your day job. Thank you. Okay. Kind of, yeah. So obviously the visual part, nowhere near my day job. This bit, however, yes. So my day job is looking at this code here. Nice, bro. Hey, welcome, White Sky Beads. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good Friday. So yeah, my day job is basically this code here, but rather than having fancy looking castles, I have a very flat looking form with buttons on and data. So I'm writing code that changes the data, moves it around. You click a button, it saves it. Your basic kind of desktop application kind of stuff. Saves product information for selling products and all this. Makes reports to print off. So I'm going, well, you know what? I know how to do this bit. So things like that. This bit of code here, game object transform local scale, is not in my day job because I don't work with game objects. But the game object is a object, and all coding in this style have objects. So this won't be game objects. There might be, well, a button. A button is an object, so I might have a button, and just okay, when you click this object, it now runs code. But in Unity, you have a game object, so it's an object that the game plays with. But otherwise, the height here, math, functions, that's regular. Vectors are 3D space. There's no 3D space in a database application. So that's a little bit different. But 90% of what I do in my day job can be used here, and vice versa. So it's a good head start that I understand this code. It's just knowing the extras like game objects and vector freeze. So those are the different bits. So what we've done, as you might have missed as you're just coming back, so I worked out the solution to my problem. If I want to only register when the player hits this building here, and when the player hits this wall, but not hitting this upper left, I need to have a zone. So I've made the hit grid a zone kind of thing, and I've made it a prefab, which means I can reuse and copy as many times as I want. So I can now have 2 zones. I can have 3 zones. I can have 4 zones. So if I delete this now, so delete, there's no zones. If I run the game, no zones, no points. But if I take this and now post it inside of the castle object, we now have 1 zone. Now this is going to throw my coding off a little bit, but it does mean I have to rework the code and make it universal. So if I move this zone, and I want to extend it, so can we determine where it scales from? Local scaling object. Okay, yeah. So I'd like it to scale from the corner, really. But I don't know if there is such a way. Okay. So we'll scale it widthways. So it needs to cover the building. But that zone needs to be a little bit wider. So ideally I'll make this a whole number. And it saves calculations later. But if it isn't, the code will correct it for me. So that is pretty much where I need it to be. And then I'll just scale it this way. So this zone needs to hit. Now, the reason for putting in this grid view down here is I can turn on the mesh renderer, make it solid, and I can see where it's covering. Now, it doesn't have to cover the bottom, really, I suppose. It's just an area the player has to hit. Now, if I make that into 8, now what I can probably do, if I'm happy with the scaling, but not the positioning, go back to positioning and bring it down so it touches the floor, or close to the floor. Doesn't have to touch the floor. As long as I'm happy that that covers most of the building. Probably shift it this way a little bit. There we go. So that is a hit zone there now. So I can then turn off that. How far into the end result of this game are you now, if you have to guess? So what do I have left to do? So 20, 50, etc. This thing. So we've just worked out one major thing, which is how do we determine buildings of weird shapes and how of tracking the player hitting them. I need to work out a bit of code that will determine when the players hit all the squares. But I think I know how to do that. That's just counting all the squares and checking if they've been hit. So count all squares in the game. How many squares? 10 squares. How many of those squares have been hit? 9 squares. Player has 1 square to hit. Has player hit 10 out of 10 squares? Yes. Level complete. Congratulations. So that bit needs to happen. Once I've done that, and rather than having red squares, have a crack. So I wanted to show a crack on the building. So I need to make a crack or find a crack image. Have that, rather than the squares turning red, just change it from no picture to picture of crack. And have a congratulations, you've completed the level. That'll be at demo level. That'll be a demo stage that I could have someone play as a demo. It wouldn't be necessarily complete, but that's a demo. So to get to a demo stage, I would say I am. Well, percentage means you have to know how much you've done, really. So considering what I've done, I have dropped a building in. I have created a ball. I've created a UI. I've calculated camera movements. Calculated angles. The hits grids. So I would say. So how far before I got to a demo stage? I think I am probably 85 to 90% towards a playable demo. If that makes sense. But then if I want to make it into a game, I would like to have multiple levels. But to do that from the demo stage, all I have to do is take what I've got here, copy it into multiple different scenarios, different buildings. And that will give me different levels. And then the harder part would be getting this Trebuchet animated and putting a character with it and stuff and doing story. So that's going to be a lot longer. So for like a full game, I would say I'm probably only, I'd say I'm only 20-30% towards a full game. But that 70% would be far quicker to do, because what I'm doing, I'm building the foundations to make the rest of it easier. And so the hardest thing will be this. This is static. This does not move. There's no moving parts. That is just a sculpture. So I'm probably have to load this Trebuchet into Blender, give it pivot points, rig it for movement, transfer it back into Unity, code the movements, and then tie it into the code that makes the ball move. Does that make sense? So this in itself is going to be a big chunk. But gameplay, otherwise, the gameplay is not going to be any different. It's still throwing a ball. It's just how it looks when you're throwing the ball. But so yeah, to have a playable demo, I'm saying about 85 to 90% the way there. That I could give it to someone and they could just play it. This won't be a full game. But if I can work all these bits out, I can then copy paste, make new buildings. I can make this a building and say, okay, the player now has to hit this thing, and rather than making a square that covers the building, I make a big, tall rectangle, and the player has to hit all the way up there. Gonna put the demo on itch? Yeah, I can put the demo on itch and say we're coming soon. Full game. It'd probably only be Windows on itch though, because might be a bit much to try and convert it all to Mac. Windows too. That's cool. Yeah, once I got to a stage where I think, well, this could be played and enjoyed. Like to have a game, even in demo form, you need to have a start, a goal, and recognition that you've hit your goal and completing the game. When we stream, etc., I'm on Windows PC. Ah, cool. Yeah, but the full thing I'll try and make possibly see if I can work it out to be a Mac compatible as a test. And I can then understand whether when I make my full game, my full adventure game, that I don't need to do anything different. It will work. So it'll be a good test for making sure my game's Mac compatible in the long run. And we'll have to keep something in mind from the get-go. They shouldn't be, to my knowledge. This should just work on any system as long as you have the right software converting it. But yeah, so let's save this and see how the game runs now I've changed the hit square. Okay, so that pane of glass is offset still, but okay, so it looks like it's hitting multiple squares at the same time, which isn't a bad thing. It just means the player can hit more things at the same time. Other topic, but since you like the graffiti style, ever done it yourself? Like not on a wall, not like a legal street art or anything, but I've used spray paints and I've made spray art for things. Very basic stuff. Mainly kind of customizing things with spray paints, but I've never created a piece of art on a wall. Nice. I actually have a whole box of spray cans down there, because I was going to customize my PS4. I've started customizing. I've changed its color. I just haven't put the artwork on it yet. I was going to make some stencils and kind of like cover it and spray one color and have another stencil and spray it. Basically Banksy style template spraying. I couldn't freehand anything. I'm no good for freehanding. But stencil art I can definitely do. But I would love to otherwise. And I follow quite a few spray artists online. There's one artist on TikTok, he's on Instagram as well, called Tom Welly Wells. So his name is basically Tom Wells, but his nickname's Welly. So he's Tom Welly Wells. And he does started off in TikTok, but he's on Instagram, as a lot of TikTok people are now. Because Instagram's hopeless. TikTok's hopeless for a lot of people. But yeah, he's on Instagram, and I actually purchased one of his pieces of art. So his art he goes onto A3 paper, and he uses stencils as well. He kind of creates stencils, prints them, cuts them. I think he's got like one of those machines like laser cut stencils and stuff. So he's made a load of stencils, but he did a phoenix. A phoenix painting, and I purchased a print for Phoenix, and they have that in their office. So if Nix was still streaming, you'd see it behind. But need to try and fix the streaming stuff. But it wasn't cheap, as you'd expect for paying an artist, but it was worth it. It's such a good piece. It's the actual piece itself was a representation of depression and how you can rise out of depression as like a phoenix. And it just shows like a woman kind of killed over, kind of sort of huddled up, but with a phoenix coming up behind her. Very cool. And that's all stencil stuff. Sounds very cool. Yeah, I'll have to post. Find a post. You probably struggle to try and find that particular one, but I can find his link and I'll post it into the chat. Very good artist, though. Tom. Oh, let's find the internet's back over here somewhere. Tom really well, there he is. I might be able to find this phoenix thing. Coffee profile. Do you want to update it? Stream manager. Chat. Post. There you go. So that was his Instagram. See if I can find his oh, I hate having the Wi-Fi ending halfway across my bed. He did a pretty cool Doctor Who one. Yeah, it could be a bit further back. If I find it, I can post it in my Discord. It's or did they T-Rex one as well? Like a Jurassic scene. Ah, I found it. Let's copy link. Let's post this in there. Yeah, so that second link there is the link to the painting. I bought a print for Nix. Very cool guy. He actually signed it as well. And sent me a written thank you note. But yeah, I would love to be able to do kind of things like he has. But you might see from his Instagram, he has an entire wall behind him with pretty much any colour you can think of. So he goes, that's kind of his palette. So you just go, okay, what colour do I need? Brit, yeah, he lives in the south. So he's right down by the south coast. Yeah, his entire palette of colours behind him. He goes, okay, what do I need? That particular shade of blue. Grab it, spray it. Right, and now I need this red. Right, I need that shade of yellow. Just grabs that one. And then not just spraying, but like modifying the way the spray works. Either his kind of catchphrase, one of his catchphrases is sticky, and you actually spray into his hand, so he has like a dripping paint, and you'll flick it to make like starscapes and stuff in outer space, or like using crumpled paper to get like texture and stuff. So it's not just literally spray can on paper, but it'll work around with it as well. Yeah, as soon as I saw that Phoenix one, I went, oh, I need to buy that. But he does sell the stencils as well for some of his stuff. So if you want to paint yourself, you can buy a stencil kit or buy a PDF of the stencils if you want to print and cut yourself. It's a little bit cheaper. But the stencils come on like a plastic sheet, so they're quite durable. Can be used a few times, but not too many times. Yeah, I love his work. I do follow follow another guy. He's definitely not English though. But he actually works in the streets. The other guy that I follow, can't remember his name. But he's like commission work, so he gets paid to make a wall or an area look nice because it's looking a bit run down. So he'll go in and sort of put a piece of artwork on a public wall to brighten up the place. So, but rather than being like illegal graffiti, he's kind of commissioned. People still graffiti over it. Nothing you can really do about that. But the stupid thing is they just graffiti over like typical tags kind of thing. You know, this guy has spent sort of quite easily a couple of hours, if not longer, creating a piece of art on this wall and someone's just tagged over it. But then he comes back and then will redo bits and stuff. I did see one video of this guy, he created one piece of art, like a character or something. And someone tried to troll him with a tag and stuff and say it was bad, but then he just created an extension for that piece of art over their tag, changed the original art slightly, and then they tagged over it again, and then he went back over it with even more art. So every time they tagged, he expanded the art to be even wider and wider and more complicated, just to embarrass the person who was trolling him and go, well, can't see you doing any better than this. All you can do is write a tag on with spray paint, and I can make this entire piece of artwork. But I can't remember his name. It'll probably pop up when I'm scrolling and stuff and go, oh yeah, that guy. Now I've got to work out what is going on here. Let's clear the console. Reset. Ball. So ball has hit, castle was hit. So it's hitting, but it's not changing the colour. Hitting the same spot. I'm not registering when the ball's been hit. Well, where the ball's hitting. So I might have to do that to determine why it's not changing the colour. Because if it's saying ball has hit, hit square. So a ball has hit square, it says ball has hit. So where ball has hit square is what I need to see. So where's ball has hit? Ball has hit. Is it brick spawner? Castle hit. Ball has hit. So when the castle is hit, it prints ball has hit. That should really be ball has hit castle. So that says ball has hit square. So if it doesn't say square, it says not hit. So Boolean castle hit false. If it's false, then true. So depends if that square has a if it has a true, then it won't continue on. Although does it matter if it's already been hit? Because it's only changing a property. If the property is already the property it's changing to, it's not making much difference. It's only running a few lines of code. So I don't really need to do that check. There's always going to be a ball hitting. So I suppose this dialogue needs to be moved up. So it's hit square. So that needs to be in the collider. So if there's a collision, it's hit something. And if it's a square that's registering it, the square must have been hit. And all that's checking where it's been hit before. But why would it have changed it to hit without changing its colour? So that suggests it's never been hit. So it's definitely hitting the castle, because the castle, the log down here is saying that the castle has been hit, and it's spawning the brick falling thing. So ball has hit square. Castle's hit. It's not registering that it's hit a square. So what's going on there then? Interesting. So visually, that ball should be changing that square to red. Now, the question is, do I make the squares bigger than 1 unit wide? So they're easier to hit, but either way, that ball is hitting where that square should be. Okay, we'll change the code a bit. So the hit grid, let's go back to the code. So the hit grid, I don't think it needs the offset anymore. So what we do, we'll copy this. Take away that. And we will comment that. So we just have it as a reference. Let's keep this happy here. Where is it not happy? Change it to Let's go back to that, save that, and hit square. So if we move this up to here, so we know when the collision has happened. So we wanted to know that it's hit the square. Goes back to castle hit, so ball as hit. We probably don't even need it there, to be honest, because we got hit castle, so we can get rid of that. So it's referencing that the castle's been hit. It's not a problem. Now if I want to know exactly where the ball is hit, I'll have to do some calculations. So that should offset it. Okay. Let's try again, see if it's offset. Ah, the grid's completely off now. So how do I make this more universal? I don't want to have to be adjusting where this pane of glass goes. So nearly flipped a keyboard. Don't want to be doing that, so a quick drink. So is it needing to be offset by that position there? Is it a position? So the transform position that needs to be offset by. So let's put another public up here. So pub doesn't need to be public, but making it public means I can see it actually in Unity, and I can check it mid-game flow. Then after that I can change it to be private if I want to. It makes no difference if it's private or public. Float. What is it? Position X, so POSX. Call it POSX. So to get the POS, so POS X equals game object dot transform dot position dot X. So POSX. So in theory that should just be plus POSX, I'm guessing. Let's give that a go. So let's save in case anything catastrophically goes wrong. Nope, that didn't work. So it needs to be far, far, far over. Because that's there. That's where it should be. So that becomes minus 1.92. And it should be minus 4.75. So is it just minus? So 4.75. So if I change this to 4.75 minus, whoops, not equals, minus 4.75. I suppose ideally what I need to be doing is probably put it in the castle holder, because that is 4.75 of the castle holder, isn't it? Okay, can I get these to spawn inside the castle holder? Is that where the parent is? Public game object castle. And if I can make it spawn from objective dot transform. Okay, save that. Let's go back to here and drag the castle holder . Can I put it in there? Or is it be Hickory maybe? Can I... Type mismatch. Why is there a type mismatch? Because Hickory is an object. Or can it not be a castle holder? Why is that miss? What am I doing wrong here? So it's game object, and the castle holder is the game object. Or can I make the hit grid its own? I can, of course. Right. I can reference itself as the parent. So I don't have to actually do that then. I can just reference itself here. Don't need to have a castle now. I can just go game object as the parent. And I don't actually need to have a castle in there. That makes things tidier. Cool. Let's go save. So I shouldn't need to have any shouldn't need position X in there in theory. We'll find out. Save that. Go back. Save again. Run the code. See where it goes. Nice, it's going inside the hit grid, that's what I wanted. Some weird stuff going on there. kind of working. It's kind of working. Means the hit grid doesn't necessarily cover all that space though. Only that space. What's going on? Some interesting results. I can't see the reticle. Has it? What has gone on in here? So it should be 10 by 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Definitely more than 10 by 8. What's going on here then? Is there some weird calculations I've not accounted for? So let's run that again and I can just check. I'll check the positioning because I'm a little bit confused. So in theory, if it's 10 by 8, there should be 80 squares here, which could quite easily be 80 squares. So these should all be different positionings, which they appear to be. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 across by 10 down. So that's going at 0.192. So why is it doing that? That is multiplying up by, it's going by 0.1. Yeah, it's going up by 0.1 each time. I'm confused where the 9.2 comes from. So is it doing relative? It's doing relative space. See, it's things like this which will push the development of this silly little game longer, because it's understanding these little quirks of Unity. Like I could take this one here and change. Let's go edit, undo sign parent. Scroll down. So I changed. Interesting. Ah, the height of them. Height of them. Why is? I've only changed one of them to be red. But they are longer than they should be. They only scale 1 by 1. Okay, let's change this colour one here. We can't actually see that one. So that is at 0, 0. So if that is at 0, 0, this should be at 0, 0. Oh, of course. It's scaling, because the scaling is 1 by 1 and the scale of that is 1 by 1. I've made every single hit square the same as the grid. So it's not long, it's just all of them, all of the squares are the same size as the entire grid. Okay. So it was easier before because I was using the global world sizing of 1 equals 1. But I need to use the localized scaling to change what the world scaling is down to local scaling. So if it's 10 by 8, it's 10 by 8. It needs to be 1/10 by 1/8. So that'd be 0.1. Is that right? 10 by 8. Oh, 0.1 and 0.8. 0.08. No? 10, yeah. Yeah. So this, I need to apply the scaling. I need to apply scaling to it. Okay, okay. Is there something for scaling in this? Don't think there is one for scaling. Rotation, position, object. How do you change the scaling of an object? Unless I scale the object here, because I'm dropping the object in here. Do I make a new game object? So game object square equals hit square, and then square dot transform local scale dot x equals .10. So how we do that? Cannot modify the return value of local scale because it's not a variable. Okay. Can we set? Only assignment, call, increment, decrement. Wait. How do we assign? Can I modify the return value? It's not available. Not available. Just want to see if I can set the scaling of it. Use of unassigned variable. It's supposed to be assigned there though. Oh. So I copied it and then move it. Okay, so that's what would work then. So I need to have a vector free free scale equals new vector free. So 0.1f comma 0.08 f comma 1 bracket. Okay, move this back up here and make that v3 scale. And put that in there as there. New expression can be simplified. How do we simplify that? Okay, you can just drop the vector free. Yeah, that's cool. So I don't even need to do that here then. I'll just be... I'll drop the vector free and just go new. Ah, okay. Speeds things up. Not sure that's the right way around, but we'll do it hard coded. We can't leave these numbers in here because it applies for just what I've set up, but we'll calculate those numbers based on this local scale numbers if this works. Let's save this. Okay, that's kind of cool. Offset's off, but size, it's the right size, I think. Kind of. I might have got the 0.1, the 0.08 the wrong way around. Let's go back and change it here then. So that should be not. Try that as 0.08, and this says 0.1. Then we'll work on the offset. So again, the idea being that I don't need to calculate anything. Now that's interesting because there's spacing between those squares. Not a bad thing. Kind of cool. Because again, the player's not going to see the squares. I've only made them invisible so I can actually see I'm doing something right. but it's functioning better. Definitely functioning better. Having them with little gaps between them is not a bad thing. Because at the moment they all seem to be working. Probably find some aren't, but so then have to work out the offsetting. Make sure the offset calculates correctly every time. So again, I don't want to have to type anything in. I want to just be able to draw a hit grid on top of a building and have the code work it out. That means all I have to do to make a new level is literally put 3D things in this space and the code does the rest. That is my goal. Now we're getting a little bit late. So I just want to see all these squares register. There's some that are below the level there, but I could hit them all, no issues. So we're making progress. Got to work out why this square and that square of squares, that grid, does not line up. Because in theory this top left square should be at the very least in the middle, but it depends where position 0, 0 is supposed to be, because that still here by the way, just lurking. That's fine, you lurk away. I'm using you as a rubber duck, whether you're listening or not. So this isn't quite 0, 0. Yeah, I'm listening. Glad to hear. So if I were to take this square and make it 0, 0, where does it end up? It does end up at 0, 0. Which is fine. But why is it over there? Okay, what's going on here then? Is it working from the bottom up? It does, isn't it? Okay. I was always thinking it was working from the top down, but if it's working from the bottom up. So square number 1 is down the bottom right here. So that needs to line up with the bottom right of this here. So how do we calculate that? So it's got to be relative to this hit grid. So 0, 0 is always going to be in the center of the grid. So we need to work out where the 4 corners are going to be. But we know that the scale of this square is 10 units by 8 units. And so we can work out the scaling of how big these should be. So I'm happy with that spacing between them. I don't mind there being a little gap, as long as they're not misaligned. So we can change that. It's one thing we can change. So So X and Y. So width. So we go like that, divided by 10. So the width divided by 10 and then the height divided by 10 will give us the same result as typing in that. Which means it doesn't matter how high or how wide we make it, this will scale appropriately. So that's the calculation. Let's drop that back down. And then see if we have the same result as me typing the numbers in. No, that did not work. That did not work whatsoever. Okay. Because it's divided by 100, that's why. Not divided by 10, it's divided by 100. Divide by 100. Save, and then go back here. Run the game. Right, okay. Yeah, so dividing the width and the height by 100 gives you the correct scaling for these cubes, I think. We've run out of music. We won't be on for too much longer, but I will get some more music going. Otherwise my headphones will turn themselves off. And my TV's going to turn itself off. So the only thing using a TV as a main PC monitor is I put a sleep mode on it after 4 hours. Okay, so we know that calculation is working to a certain extent. We can tweak it. So that's positioning. So X is, so what it's doing then, what was it generating from the top? Because it should be adding to the bottom. So I think the way the code's working, the way I've written the code, is that it makes this bottom square, bottom right square first, then the one above it, then the one above that, and goes up this first row on the right, comes back to the bottom, and keeps adding the ones up, goes back to the bottom, adding the ones up. So it's doing it that way. It's probably, I could probably switch it around, but it doesn't matter which way around I create the squares. They need to generate in the right location. But if I'm starting in the bottom right, I need to know where this bottom right corner is. Because that square there, it's got to be as close to 0, 0 as any of them. No, there. Because of course that's going up. And of course the centre is going to be close to 0, 0. Of course it is. So the X. So again, I could manually calculate this by going, well, minus the 0.192, and that will manually set it back to 0. But to calculate what the corner is, we know it's 10 by 8, and 0, 0, as far as these squares are considered, is in the centre of this 10 by 8 rectangle. So to find the edge of this shape from the center, we'd have to travel half the width and half the height. So we take 0, 0 and we plus 4 and plus 5. We'll be at a corner. If we minus 4 and plus 5 will be another corner. If we plus 4 and minus 5 will be the other corner, and when we minus 4 minus 5 will be the other corner. So we need to take the width and the height and divide by 2. So we divide by 2, so it'd be 4 and 5. But that's not lining up with what I'm seeing there. See, as I say, there's a lot of mathematics involved with coding with games. That so you end up with percentages and the scaling of the object, because I want everything to scale. So if I change the size of a thing, everything within that object needs to scale down or scale up. So if I make this square bigger, everything's got to become bigger just by me changing the size of it. So okay, let's so I could change the X and the Y around so it goes one way or the other. But that's not going to make much of a difference, I suppose. So what I could do is go, what do I need? Just copy that code there. Debug log. So I need to make a log of where these squares are being generated. So square gen x comma y that needs to be it's not plus on this, isn't it? Yeah, plus. So that 0 needs to be x. Oh, it's not capital. It's the only thing with C# coding, a capital X and a lowercase x are completely two different things, which can be useful but confusing otherwise. We'd rather not be confusing. Keep everything lowercase. That needs to be a Y. So we will know which squares get generated in which order. Save that. Let's go to the console. Run. Go back up to the top. So it is generating at 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. But it's 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2 relative to the hit grid. But that should mean it was in the centre. Why is it not in the centre? Now, is it generating it at 0, 0 to the world? Is that the problem? Is it not generating it 0, 0 locally? So when it generates it at 0, 0 to the world, that's how it translates to the local. So this square here, is that what's happening? When it generates it to the world. That's what that square is. So that is just in front of the door. Okay, let's have a... So at this point here, it's generating a square here. So let's put a square here. We can put a brick there, I suppose. There's a brick. So if I change position of this brick to 0, 0, yeah, it's generating it via the world. Okay, okay, so this... I know where it's putting it now. Next question is, I still need to work out where this corner is in relative to the world. Okay, okay. We've solved that. So when this code runs here and this V3 here, the V3 which we're calculating to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4, is the world 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, not relative to the castle. So, I need to work out where this corner is. Corner of the hit grid. I need to calculate where this exists in the world. Because that is just a visual representation of that. And that is relative to that. Or can I, is there anything in the code I can say that I want it to be generated per local? There isn't really, is it? World position stays? Instantate in world space. So we've got Boolean that instate in world space. So we have a parent, so we can determine the parent, the object positioning. So I'm going to have to calculate the positioning. I think I have to think about that, and I'll continue this next Friday. I think. Switch over camera. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of maths working out. So less programming, more maths. So I can do a little bit of thinking off stream. and see what's going to be the best calculation. But I now know 00 is world space 00. I just need to translate it. So I was hoping by giving it a parent, it would be relative to the parents, but it's only adds it to the parent, not. So that's going to be interesting. If you want to, if you have like a, say you have a tank, like a battle tank, and you want to fire a visible shell from that battle tank, and you want to spawn it, you'd have to calculate where the end of the cannon is, the turret, to spawn it at the front of the turret. Otherwise you could spawn it and it'll spawn completely away from the tank. So yeah, there's got to be things about that. Thank you for the stream. Thank you Jeffrey, thank you Lisa. There's Nozzy. Yeah, there's got to be a way of doing it, because you want to see a tank shell leave a tank from the front of the tank, not spawn it somewhere randomly. It was epic as always. Thank you very much. I still need to fix the bot there. Thank you for dropping in and lurking and all your chats. Very cool. Have a good night and a great weekend. Thank you. Yes. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I know it's past midnight for you. Thank you for sticking by me. Have a good weekend, and I'll be back on Monday for Minecraft if you are available. If you're not, I'll think of something to do. But enjoy your weekend. Hopefully it's not too busy for you. And yeah, I shall see you then, and I'll work on this. I'll try and work out some numbers. I can do that while lying down. I tend to think better while lying down. So yeah, enjoy your rest of your evening, enjoy your weekend. See you all on Monday. Have a good night. Good night.